उद्घाट्य योगकलया हृदयाब्जकोशं धन्यैश्चिरादपि यथा रुचि गृह्यमाणः यः प्रस्फुरत्यविरतं परिपूर्णचन्द्रः श्रेयस्य मे दिशतु शाश्वतिकं मुकुन्दः यस्याहुरागमविदः परिपूर्णशक्तेः अंशे कियत्यपि निविष्टममुं प्रपञ्चम् तस्मै तमालरुचिभासुरकन्धराय नारायणी सहचराय नमः शिवाय। वेदविभागविधात्रे विमलाय ब्रह्मणे नमो विश्वदृशे सकलधृतिहेतुसाधन सूत्रसृजे सत्यवत्यभिव्यक्तिमते नानाभाष्याधृतासा सगुणफलगतिर्वैधविद्या विशेषैः तत्तद्देशाप्तिरम्या सरिदिव सकला यत्र यात्यंशभूयम् तस्मिन्नानन्दसिन्धावति महति फले भावविश्रान्तिमुद्रा शास्त्रस्योद्घाटितायै प्रणमत हृदि तान् नित्यमाचार्यपादान् विधाय वेदान् विविधाः कलाश्च भावज्ञमप्राप्य विषीदतोऽन्तः शम्भोः प्रियं कर्तुमिवावतीर्णः श्रीमान् जयत्यप्पय दीक्षितेन्द्रः उमाकान्ते रमाकान्ते येषामासीन्मतिः समा नमामि दीक्षितेन्द्रांस्तान् नयषट्क विशारदान्। भारती करुणापात्रं भारती पदभूषणं भारती पदमारूढ़ं भारती तीर्थमाश्रय विद्या विनय संपन्नं वीतरागं विवेकिनं वंदे वेदांत तत्वज्ञं विधिशेखर भारती। My humble obeisance to Shri Sharadamba of Sringeri. My humble obeisance to Advaita Vidyacharya Shri Adishankar Bhagavatpada. My humble obeisance to Advaita Vidyacharya Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra. My humble obeisance to Mahasanidhanam Jagadguru Shankaracharya Shri Bharati Tirtha Mahaswamigal. My humble obeisance to Sanidhanam Jagadguru Shankaracharya Shri Vidhushekhara Bharati Swamigal. I thank the organizers of Sringeri Guru Bandhava for organizing this lecture on Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra Kanya Masa Krishna Paksha Prathama. So this is the Jayanti of Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra. So on the day of his Jayanti, this talk has been organized by the Sringeri Guru Bandhava team. I express my gratitude towards all the members of Sringeri Guru Bandhava. And the topic for today is an appreciation of Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra as a Pouranika and glimpses from some of his stotras. So we all know that Shri Appayya Dikshitendra was none other than an incarnation of Parameshvara himself in Kali Yuga. Just like how Shri Adishankar Bhagavatpada was an avatar of Parameshvara himself in Kali Yuga, Dikshitendra was also an incarnation of Parameshvara himself in Kali Yuga. All throughout his lifetime, Dikshitendra was a Nityagnihotri, and all throughout his lifetime, he had been performing Agnihotram and all the prescribed Shrauta Smarta karmas. All throughout his lifetime, he had been observing Shiva Puja every day. He used to do Shiva Panchakshara Japam every day. He was a very great scholar in Samavedam. He was a very great scholar in the Shrauta Sutras. He was an excellent Vedanta Vidwan. He was a great scholar in 4 schools of Vedanta. He was a great scholar in Purva Mimamsa, in Vyakaranam, and in Alankara Shastram. So these are the many different facets of Dikshitendra. And he was also a Yogi Purusha. He was an Ashtanga Yoga Anushtana Nishtha. So every day, he used to have Yoga Anushtanam in his life. So that was the eminence of Dikshitendra. Just like how Shri Sadashiva Brahmendra was a great Yogi Purusha, So we should also remember that Dikshitendra was also a highly exalted yogi Purusha. Apart from these multiple facets, so there is another facet of Dikshitendra which is rarely studied and discussed, and that is Srimad Appayya the facet of Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra as a Pouranika, an exponent of the Puranas. So Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra was a very great scholar of the major Puranas and the minor Puranams. The Itihasa Puranams are one of the most important Pramanams. So the word Pramanam means a valid means of knowledge. And it is through this means of knowledge we can know the nature of the Supreme Brahman. So it is through these are one of the most important Pramanams through which we can understand the nature of the Brahman after studying and through realization. So although the Supreme Being is the impersonal Brahman, which is devoid of names, attributes, and designations, different aspects of Saguna Brahman exist. Different Puranams have different aspects of the Saguna Brahman as Prameyam. Some Puranams reveal Shiva as the Supreme, some Puranams reveal Vishnu as the Supreme, and so on. The different Puranams have been compiled to guide different classes of Upasakas on the respective deities and inspire them to tread on the path of Bhagavad Bhakti they have taken up. A concept of Bhagavad Bhakti that has been explained in one Puranam, the supremacy of a particular Devata that has been proclaimed in one Puranam may be negated or argued against in another Puranam. Such apparent controversies are found in the Puranams and they should be interpreted and understood using the Nahininda Nyaya. So there is something known as Nahininda Nyaya. So this is what all the Acharyas of our Sampradaya have taught us. And Dikshitendra has beautifully explained it in his text known as Madhvatantra Mukhamardhanam. Shivam Vishnum Vayadyabhidadhati Shastrasya Vishayam Tadishtam Grahyam Naha Sagunamapi Tat Brahma Bhajatam Virodho Nati Vispurati Nahininda Nayavidam Nasutranam Arthantaramapi Bhavadvaryamuchitam. So this is the opening shloka of Madhvatantra Mukhamardhanam. So this is a Sanskrit comment. This is an independent work written by Dikshitendra in Advaita Vedanta. So selected adhikaranams of the first chapter, first padam of Brahma Sutras have been taken up, and Dikshitendra has written a khandanam on Madhva Siddhanta, and he has written his own Sanskrit commentary on his work Madhvatantra Mukhamardhanam. So the Anvayam of the shloka goes on as follows: Yadi kechit Shivam va Vishnum va Sagunam Brahma Shastrasya Vishayam Abhidadhati Chet Sagunam Brahma Bhajatam Naha Tat Api Vishayam Ishtam Grahyam Cha Nahininda Nayavidam Naha Virodhaha Na Ativa Spurati Bhavadvaryam Sutranam Arthantaram Api Na Uchitam. So this is the Anvaya of the shloka. So the meaning of this is, some scholars propose Lord Shiva to be the object of the Shastra. The Shastra means Vedanta Shastra. While others propose Lord Vishnu to be its object. Both of these Vishayas, so that is Lord Shiva as the Vishayam of Vedanta Shastra, Lord Vishnu as the Vishayam of Vedanta Shastra. So both of these Vishayas are venerable and acceptable to us, the Advaitins, who also worship the Saguna Brahman. As people who accept the Nahininda Nyaya, we find no contradiction here. So after saying this, in the 51st shloka of Madhvatantra Mukhamardhanam, so he says, Sphara Tattat Purana Dhamavachana Shata Prapita Yanya Ninda Tattat Bhatyadi Siddhyai Bhuvana Virachane Sabhave Dwaramatram. So under the commentary of this shloka, he explains what is Nahininda Nyaya exactly. paraspara nindavachanani. So that is mutually contradictory words of the Puranas. So nahi ninda nindyam ninditum pravartate apitu stutyam stotum iti nyayena uditanudita homanindadishu drishtena tat devata vishaya nishchala bhakti siddhi prayojane stuti virachane dvaramatrattvena upapannani. So this is the Sanskrit commentary of Dikshitendra here. Nahi ninda nindyam ninditum pravartate. So if one entity has been the subject of censure, so the aim of this ninda is not to criticize that entity who has been criticized. So the actual criticism is not intended here. Apitu stutyam stotum. So the original intention is to offer stuti to that entity who is the object of stotra or praise. So we can find examples of this even in the stotras of Adi Shankara Bhagavatpada. So in Subramanya Bhujangam, in Rama Bhujangams, in all of these shlokas, when Bhagavatpada addresses each of the deities, he says, Twadanyam na devam namanye namanye. So we can find many such vakyams in the stotras of Adi Shankara Bhagavatpada as well. So it doesn't mean that when Bhagavatpada is writing a stotra in praise of Bhagavan Rama, so it doesn't mean that he's a fanatic devotee of Rama who hates other devatas. So when he writes Subramanya Bhujangam, when he sings something in praise of Subramanya, he's not a fanatic Subramanya Bhakta who is having hatred for other devatas. And it is not that when he sings something in praise of Devi or Shiva, he becomes a fanatic Shakta or a Shaiva who has Vesha for other devatas. So that is not the way we interpret these shlokas. So it is through Nahininda Nyayam we study and understand these shlokas of our Acharyas. So in the same way, we apply Nahininda Nyayam to the Vakyams of the different Puranams. So in the Puranams, we find that, so one Devata who is being praised. So in particular Purana, the Gunas, Mahima, Vibhuti and Vaibhavam of one particular Devata is the subject of discussion in one Puranam. So we may find the Ninda of other Devatas. So in another Puranam, so another Devata might have been praised and this particular Devata might have been subjected to Ninda. So such mutually contradictory words of the Puranas have to be understood using Nahininda Nyayaha. So this is the meaning of the Nahininda Nyaya. And Dikshitendra says, Sabhave Dwara Matram. So it is just a pathway for the bhaktas to enter into that particular bhakti marga, that particular upasana marga. So therefore, astikas who come across such ninda vakyas in the Itihasa Puranams should look at them only from the perspective of Nahininda Nyayam and have utmost respect for the other set of Itihasa Purana Vakyams that establish the supremacy of the other Devatas and reveal the true nature of those Devatas and show the path of Upasana Margas connected to them. A right-thinking Vaidika who knows the boundaries of the Shastras would never breach them by indulging in condemning other Devatas and their Upasakas. So Dikshitendra says in his commentary on Ananda Lahari that hatred for other Devatas would result in a very big sin, and he puts it like this. So there is a shloka, the 35th shloka in Ananda Lahari. So he says, under that shloka, he says, so if a person happens to say that Vishnu is a Jivatma, so Murdha cha Shatadha Bhavati, so his head would break into 1,000 pieces. So I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that great sin of saying that Bhagavan Narayana is a Jivatma. And Veda Vaidika Drohaha Devata Drohashcha Jayate. So it becomes a great offense against the Vedas. It becomes a great offense against the Vaidika Maharshis and the Prachina Acharyas who followed pure Vaidika Marga. and Devata Drohashti Jayate, it becomes a very great offense against all the Devatas. So Dikshitendra says in his Sanskrit commentary on Ananda Lahari, Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra lived at a time when Shivadvesha was dominant in Tamil Nadu. As a result of this, Dikshitendra set out to prove that the Akshepas raised against the Shivapara Vakyams of the Itihasa Puranams were wrong and had no basis at all. After the time of Sri Adishankara Bhagavat Pada, a new theory and perspective on the validity of the Puranams arose. The Puranams, the Mahapuranams and the Upapuranams, so they were given an imaginary status of Satvika Puranams, Rajasa Puranams and Tamasa Puranams. Those Puranams that established the supremacy of Lord Vishnu, they were considered as Satvika Puranams. Those Puranams that established the supremacy of the other Devatas were considered Rajasa Puranams and Tamasa Puranams. And even today, some people in South India and Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, so they believe that those who study Puranams like Srimad Bhagavatam, Vishnu Puranam, Padma Puranam and Varaha Puranam will attain Sadgati. And those who waste time in studying Shiva Mahapuranam, Skanda Puranam, Matsya Puranam, Linga Puranam, Devi Bhagavatam, Devi Mahatmyam will never attain Sadgati and they will attain Naraka Prapti. So this is the opinion some people in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu have. And they consider, so all of these wrong notions on the Pramanyam of Puranams. So all of these were put to test against a mighty river, and that mighty river was the Shiva Bhakti of Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra that emerged 500 years ago. And this river ran on 500 years ago, and it irrigated and refreshed the followers of pure Vaidika Dharma. This river strengthened the Bhagavad Bhakti. It washed and cleansed the intellect of Astikas by its stream of grace. This idea that Puranams are classified into Satvika Puranams, Rajasa Puranams and Tamasa Puranams. So this is a part of the Sri Vaishnava and Madhva Vaishnava opinion, which comes down from a number of Acharyas and Vidwans. During his lifetime, Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra faced the brainstorm of such religious ideas, and he made a landmark defense of Advaita as well as of Shiva Bhakti from the Sri Vaishnava Vidwans and Madhva Vidwans on a scholarly level. So to accomplish this, Dikshitendra has written a corpus of well-researched, well-structured and cogently delivered Upanyasams of the Itihasa Puranams in the form of Stotra Granthas. So Dikshitendra has composed many stotras. So through these stotras, so he has written Shikharini Mala and his own Sanskrit commentary on Shikharini Mala titled Shivatattva Vivekam. And this is a very, very important text for us in Advaita Vedanta. And even today, when somebody approaches Mahamahopadhyaya Shri Manidravida Shastrigal and asks some doubt about any part of Shikharini Mala or Shivatattva Viveka, so Shastrigal would be extremely happy. And the joy with, you can see in his tone, his voice, his face expression, so he would be so happy. So all such works of Dikshitendra, so they are a great delight to Vidwans. Dikshitendra has also written Brahmatarkastava and his own Sanskrit commentary on it, Durgachandra Kalastuti and his own Sanskrit commentary on it, Aditya Stotra Ratnam and his own Sanskrit commentary on it. So these are stotrams of Dikshitendra. Apart from this, he has also written a work on external puja vidhanam known as Shivarchana Chandrika. Apart from this, he has written a stotram known as Gangadharashtakam. So these works are not, except for Gangadharashtakam, other texts are not available today. So he has written a Sanskrit commentary on Harivamshasara Charitam. So we do not know that who had written the work titled Harivamshasara Charitam. So Dikshitendra has written a Sanskrit commentary on it. So we only know about this work by its name and it is not available. And there is a work named Jayolla Sanidhi. And some believe this to be a Sanskrit commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. A book known as Vishnu Tattva Rahasyam. Shaiva Purana Tamasatva Khandanam. So in this work, Dikshitendra has argued against the notion that those Puranams that establish the supremacy of Lord Shiva are tamasic. So as I told you earlier, there are people who believe that Shiva Mahapuranam, Skanda Puranam, Matsya Puranam, Kurma Puranam, Linga Puranam, Devi Bhagavatam, and Devi Mahatmyam within Markandeya Puranam. So all of these Puranams are grouped under Rajasic and Tamasic Puranas. And studying these, the Shaiva Puranas is something that is tamasic. So Dikshitendra has argued against them. And then he has also written a work known as Adhikarana Kunjika. So this is a commentary on selected portions of the Puranams that deal with Advaita Vedanta. And except for Gangadharashtakam here in this list, the other books are not available. So we know that Dikshitendra has written 104 works in Sanskrit. Chaturadhika Shatam Prabandha Jatam. So these are the works of Dikshitendra. Among these 104 books, these works are not available today. So Dikshitendra has made an outstanding exposition of the Shaiva Puranams. So Shikhrani Mala, Brahmatarkastavam, Aditya Stotra Ratnam, Durga Chandra Kalastuti, and his own Sanskrit commentaries on them. So all of these are very, very important for us. And through all of these stotras and stotra vyakhyanams, Dikshitendra keeps pushing the bounds of Shastric understanding to instill bhakti in our hearts. Without his own Sanskrit commentaries on these stotras, it would have been very difficult for us to understand them. So all of these stotras would have been mysterious and enigmatic. So in these works, he has presented us the essence of all the Shaiva Puranams. Shiva Mahapuranam with its 7 Samhitas, Vidyeshwara Samhita, Rudra Samhita with its 5 Khandam, Srishti Khandam, Sati Khandam, Parvati Khandam, Kumara Khandam, and Yuddha Khandam. And then the third Samhita known as Shatarudra Samhita, the fourth one known as Koti Rudra Samhita, Uma Samhita, Kailasa Samhita, and the seventh one Vayaviya Samhita. So Shiva Mahapuranam with its 7 Samhitas, and then Matsya Puranam, Kurma Puranam, Linga Puranam, and the South Indian recension of Skanda Mahapuranam. So the compilation of these stotras, it is a result of decades of diligence, preparation in the form of intense adhyayanam and adhyapanam of the Puranams, wisdom, engaging in vakyarthas, bhakti towards Bhagavan and the Purvacharyas, Shraddha, Japam, external Bhagavad Upasanam, Vaidika Shrauta Smartha Karmanishtha, Dhyananistha, and Samadhinishtha. So all of these works are a result of all of these things. So he was a great Dhyananistha, he was a Samadhinishtha, he was a great Vaidika Shrauta Smartha Karmanusthana Nishtha Dikshitendra was. And these stotras and his own auto commentaries on them reveal that the scholarship of Dikshitendra was not rigorous in the Shastras alone. He was not just a rigorous scholar in the 4 schools of Vedanta, in Purva Mimamsa Shastram, in Vyakarana Shastram, and in Alankara Shastram alone. He was also a scholar par excellence. An Acharya par excellence in the exposition of the Puranams as well. That was the eminence of Dikshitendra. He had a very highly refined ability to expound the Puranams to the minds of the Astikas in such a way that it arouses intense Shiva Bhakti in our hearts and Shraddha in the Purana Vakyams. In doing this, he emphasizes the truth that all the Puranams ultimately lead to Advaita. So what he has stated in his Sanskrit commentary on Shrikanta Shivacharya's Brahmasutra Bhashyam, he has shown them by example in all of these stotras and stotra vyakhyanams through illustration. So the famous shloka in his Shivakamani Deepika goes on as follows. Yadyapyadvaita eva shrutishikhara magamanam cha nishtha sakam sarvaiः puranaiः smritinikara mahabharatadi prabandhaiः tatraiva brahmasutranyaphi cha vimrshatam bhanti vishrantimanti pratnairacharyaratnaiः api parijagrihe shankaradyaistadev tathapyanugrahadev tarunendu shikhamaneh advaita vasana pumsam avidbhavati nanyatha. Yadyapi, although Advaita eva, so the consensus of all the Vedas along with the Upanishads, Shruti Shikhara Giram and Agamanam, so the way of the Agama means the Vedas along with the Upanishads, and Sakam Sarvaiः Puranahi, the word Sarvaiः Puranahi is very, very important here. The consensus of all the Puranams is in the philosophy of Advaita alone. And Smritinikara Mahabharatadi Prabandhaihi, along with all the Smriti texts, along with great compilations like Mahabharata, and Tatraiva Brahmasutran Yapicha Vimrshatam Bhanti Vishranti Manti. To those scholars who study the Brahmasutras of Sri Vyasacharya with astute analysis, it is that the Advaita philosophy so that will appear to be the ultimate truth. And that Advaita philosophy has, so it was that philosophy that was accepted by great acharyas of the past. So Acharya Ratnaihi, Jemma among acharyas, Pratnaihi means acharyas of the past. Shankara, by acharyas like Adi Shankara Bhagavad-pada and others, it was the philosophy of Advaita that was accepted. And then, Tathapi, in spite of that, Advaita Vasana Pumsam, so people get Shraddha in Advaita, so the Vasana of Advaita will dawn in the mind of people only when there is the grace of Parameshvara. So this is what Dikshitendra says in his Shivarkamani Deepika, which is a Sanskrit commentary on the Brahmasutra Bhashyam of Shrikanta Shivacharya. So this is about how Dikshitendra has expounded the Puranams. So these are the texts of Dikshitendra that deal with Itihasa Puranams. So I would like to show some examples of how Dikshitendra has handled the Puranams. So one of the most important thing we'll have to note here is Dikshitendra had worked very hard to expound the Shaiva group of Puranams. So that is one thing we must keep in mind. So the essence of these Puranams Dikshitendra has given us. So it is not a word-to-word commentary on the Puranams which we might be expecting. So for people who are living in 21st century, so these expositions may not be sufficient. So for Mandabuddhis, for people like us, so much more elaboration is required on these Puranams. For example, we have Shiva Mahapuranam with its 7 Samhitas. So when we study the stotras of Dikshitendra, the stotra vyakhyanams of Dikshitendra, and when we do a lot of Vedanta Shravanam from Vidwans of our Sampradaya, from great scholars, so when we keep listening to Vedanta over and over again from different stotras of Adi Shankara Bhagavad-pada, Prakarana Granthas of Adi Shankara Bhagavad-pada like Viveka Chudamani and others, the Upanishad Bhashyam, Sutra Bhashyam, when we keep listening to all of these over and over again, on one hand, when we keep studying the stotras of Dikshitendra innumerable Parayanam of Dikshitendra's stotras, repeated study of Dikshitendra's Sanskrit commentary on his own stotras, and then separately we'll have to do a separate, we'll have to study the Puranams as well. All of this group of Puranams. So when we keep studying, it's only then we will understand what Dikshitendra is trying to say. So the depth of Dikshitendra's explanations could be understood only when we study all of them together. So it requires many years and even decades of committed studying of the Puranams. So we'll have to devote our lives to regular Parayanam of Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra's Stotrams, to regular Parayanam of Shiva Mahapuranam. So just like how many of us we do Parayanam of Valmiki Ramayanam and Srimad Bhagavatam at home. So we also have, in many places, grand Upanyasams on Ramayanam and Bhagavatam are arranged. So this is something that is very, very common in South India and especially in Tamil Nadu. So in the same way, we should also do Parayanam of the whole Shiva Mahapurana, the 24,000 shlokas of Shiva Mahapurana. And scholars should be invited in many places to give dispositions on texts like Shiva Mahapuranam, Suta Samhita of South Indian Skanda Puranam. So this is something we as a society should work upon. So only then we will be serving all of our Purvacharya, starting from Adi Shankara Bhagavatpada, from Sureshwaracharya, Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra. So this is something that is very, very important. And until 100 years and 150 years ago, grand Parayanam of Suta Samhita used to take place in Tamil Nadu. So even in Srirangam Shankara Gurukulam, so that is Sringeri Shankara Matham in Srirangam, which was founded by Guru Bhakta Shikhamani, Shastra Prasara Bhushana Shri T.K. Balasubramanya Iyer, even during his time, Suta Samhita Parayanam used to take place in a very grand manner on Shivaratri day. So a scholar would be invited and he would be requested to do Parayanam of the complete Suta Samhita of South Indian Skanda Puranam. So today this is something we have completely forgotten. So Suta Samhita is one among the 6 books of South Indian Skanda Puranam. So the North Indian and South Indian Skanda Puranam, they are completely different in content as well as in structure. So the North Indian Skanda Puranam consists of 7 khandams and the South Indian Skanda Puranam consists of 6 samhitas. So the North Indians have very beautifully preserved their recension of Skanda Puranam, whereas we South Indians, we have not preserved our recension of Skanda Puranam. So even during the time of Mahakavi Shri Nilakantha Dikshitar 500 years ago, so in his Shivatattva Rahasyam, Nilakantha Dikshitar says that some sections of Skanda Puranam are extremely rare and they can be found only in isolated pockets of the country. So some scholars, so they made allegations that texts like Saura Samhita of Skanda Puranam are not found anywhere. And these are spurious texts and they are not a part of, they are not authentic Puranic literature. And Nilakantha Dikshitar has argued against this argument and he has told that in some isolated pockets of the country, these sections of South Indian Skanda Puranam are available. So even during his time, 500 years ago, during the time of Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra and Nilakantha Dikshitar, some sections of South Indian Skanda Puranam were very scarce. So the 6 samhitas of South Indian Skanda Puranam are Brahmi Samhita, Vaishnavi Samhita, Raudri Samhita, and then Sanat Kumariya Samhita, Suta Samhita, and Suta. So these are the Saura Samhita and Suta Samhita. So these, and even in his Purvottara Mimamsa Vada Nakshatramala, Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra has quoted verses from Sauri Samhita of Skanda Puranam. So in this way, the reason for our explaining all this is, so we should never forget this group of our Itihad, this group of our Puranams. So the study and Parayanam of Shiva Mahapuranam, Linga Puranam, Matsya Puranam, Kurma Puranam, those are the South Indian as well as the North Indian Skanda Puranam. So this is something we should take up once again. So I would like to show some examples of the Puranic wisdom of Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra. So one of the best example is Aditya Stotra Ratnam. So when we hear the word Aditya Stotra Ratnam, so it implies that it is a stotram on Bhagavan Surya, and that is true. And it is not just a stotram on Surya, Bhagavan Surya alone. So it is also a stotra on Parameshwara. So there is a chapter in Matsya Puranam. So this is where, so in this chapter of Matsya Puranam, the 55th chapter of Matsya Puranam, so there is a teaching of Parameshwara to Maharshi Narada, and he reveals the Aditya Shayana Vrata Puja Vidhanam to Maharshi Narada. And there Parameshwara says, Uma Maheshwarasyarcham Archayet Suryanamabhi Suryarcham Shivalingecha Prakurvan Pujayet. A devotee who worships Uma Maheshwara, Bhagavan Shiva along with Devi Uma, one who performs puja to his murti by chanting the holy names of Lord Surya, and a devotee Suryarcham Shivalingecha Prakurvan Pujayedyatah. So a devotee who contemplates upon the form of Bhagavan Surya within Shivalingam and then offers puja to Surya Bhagavan. So Umapate Ravervapi Nabhedo Drishyate Tvachit. So he says there is no difference between the Lord of Devi Uma and Bhagavan Surya. So there is so Bhagavan Surya and Bhagavan Shiva. So both of them are identical to each other. Yasmat Tasman Munishreshtha Grihe Shambhum Samarchayet. So as a result of that, a grihastha should offer, a person has to worship Bhagavan Shambhu in his house. So this is a Purana Vakyam we find in Matsya Puranam. And when we take a careful look at the entire structure of Dikshitendra's Aditya Stotra Ratnam, so we can find a striking similarity between these two shlokas of Matsya Puranam and the way Dikshitendra has composed Aditya Stotra Ratnam. So Dikshitendra was a person who was deeply devoted to the Adhyayanam and Adhyapanam of this group of Puranas, and that can be understood when we study each and every Stotra Vyakhyanam of his meticulously. So Dikshitendra says, and all of his so in the Sanskrit commentary to every single shloka of Aditya Stotra Ratnam, Dikshitendra quotes from innumerable Shruti Vakyams, Smriti Vakyams and Itihasa Purana Vakyams. Every single word used by Dikshitendra in his Aditya Stotra Ratnam and Durga Chandra Kala Stuti, so it has a very large body of Shruti Vakyams behind it. Some words may have a very large body of Smriti Vakyams behind them. Some words of Dikshitendra may have very large body of Itihasa Purana Vakyams behind them. So in the 12 shlokas of Aditya Stotra Ratnam, a lot of Shruti wisdom, a lot of Smriti wisdom, a lot of Itihasa Purana wisdom has been tightly packed into it. The 12 shlokas of Aditya Stotra Ratnam. So Dikshitendra must have taken inspiration from this particular shloka of Matsya Puranam, and then he must have compiled this. But nowhere in his Sanskrit commentary, Dikshitendra says that he has compiled the whole of this stotram based on this chapter of Matsya Puranam. But when we study the whole of Dikshitendra's Aditya Stotra Ratnam's commentary and all the Puranams, we can understand the depth of it. So in one of the shlokas, Sanskrit commentary in Aditya Stotra Ratnam, he says, so I have quoted profusely from the Itihasas, Puranas, Shrutis and Smritis. So all of this, so I am just showing a way. So there is much more to go. So he says there is a lot of meanings to these shlokas which he has not revealed in his Sanskrit commentary. So when we go through the entire range of Itihasa Puranam, so Amula Chudam, when we study all the Mahapuranams and Upapuranams, so we can understand a lot of meanings which Dikshitendra has not explained in his Sanskrit commentary. And this is one such example for it. So Aditya Shayana Vratam, so this is an elaborate Vrata Puja Vidhanam that has been described in Matsya Puranam. And so there are puja vidhanams have also been explained in it. And finally, so this Vrata Puja culminates in Godanam to a qualified Brahmana. So that is how the whole of this chapter has been explained. And Dikshitendra must have taken inspiration from these two shlokas of Matsya Puranam to compose Aditya Stotra Ratnam. And in doing so, he does it very beautifully by interweaving Vedantic wisdom also into it. So this Aditya Stotra Ratnam doesn't carry the wisdom of the Puranams alone. So it is replete with Vedantic wisdom. So the third shloka of Aditya Stotra Ratnam, Nirgachantorka Bimbat Nikhila Janimatam Hardanadi Pravishtaha Nadlovasvadi Vrinda Rakagana Madhunas Tasyananadi Guthaha Varshanta Stoyamushtam Tuhinapapi Jalan Yapibanta Samantat Pitradinam Svadhausha Dhimratarasakruto Bhantikanti Prarohaha. So when he contemplates on the rays of Bhagavan Surya, so there he has, in this shloka, he has beautifully brought out the meaning of Madhvidya among Brahmavidya. So there are 32 Brahmavidyas in Vedanta. So Madhvidya is one among them. So Dikshitendra has beautifully explained the meaning of Madhvidya in his Sanskrit commentary under this shloka. So he has quoted profusely from Chandogya Upanishad to illustrate it. And he has also quoted from Kurma Puranam to explain this concept of Madhvidya in his Aditya Stotra Ratnam. And in the 10th shloka, so the first 9 shlokas are stotram on Surya Bhagavan. So shlokas 10, 11 and 12 are stotram on Parameshvara, who is situated as the Antaryami within the Surya Mandalam. So Aditya Lokachakshush Yavihita Manasam Yoginam Drishyamantaha. So in that shloka he says that it is Bhagavan Parameshvara who is situated as the Antaryami within the Surya Mandalam. So here he has brought out the essence of Antaraditya Vidya of Vedanta very beautifully. So this is very, very important. And then Pauranic wisdom. So evidence from Dikshitendra's Pauranic expositions to prove that he had equal devotion towards both Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva. Shri K.V. Subramanya Shastrigal, the author of Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra Vijaya Kavyam, he says, Umakante Ramakante Yeshamasin Matisama Namami Dikshitendran Stana. I offer my obeisance to Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra, who had equal devotion to both Lord Vishnu as well as Lord Shiva. So that equal devotion to both Lord Vishnu and Shiva could be seen in all of his verses, all of his works. So one example is Durga Chandra Kalastuti. So in Durga Chandra Kalastuti we can see the Shiva Bhakti as well as Vishnu Bhakti of Dikshitendra. So although Durga Chandra Kalastuti appears to be a stotram on Devi, yes, it is a stotram on Devi, but Dikshitendra has established the paramyam of Hari and Hara here in Durga Chandra Kalastuti. So only when we study the Sanskrit commentary on Durga Chandra Kalastuti very carefully, we will realize that so the ultimate Pratipadyam in this stotram Durga Chandra Kalastuti is Hariparamyam and Haraparamyam. So in Sanskrit commentary on Durga Chandra Kalastuti's 8th shloka, Suktain Yadiyam Aravinda Bhavadidrishtam Avartya devyanupadam surathas samadhihi dvavapyavapatur ananya. So under this shloka, under 8th shloka, so he has written a Sanskrit commentary on his own on the shloka, the 8th shloka. After giving the purport of the 8th shloka, so once again he gives an explanation of the purport of shlokas 2 to 8 here. So there he says, Tadevam saptabhi shlokai krite devi mahatmya sangrahe असंशयार्थम पांचरात्र लक्ष्मी तंत्र वचनानि प्रदर्श्यन्ते तत्र इमानि शक्रम प्रति महालक्ष्मी वचनानि. So through the 7 shlokas, starting from the 2nd shloka of Durga Chandra Kalastuti to the 8th shloka, so in these 7 shlokas, the essence of Devi Mahatmyam has been presented. And Satam Asamshayartham, to remove the doubts that further doubts that will exist in the minds of scholars, Pancharatra Lakshmi Tantra Vachanani Pradarshyante. I am presenting the verses from Pancharatra Lakshmi Tantram to clarify certain points here. And after saying this, Tatra, so these are the words of Devi Mahalakshmi to Indra. So after saying this, Dikshitendra quotes profusely from a Pancharatra text. And after saying that, at the end of it, he says, Atra Kutastha Mahalakshmi. So who is Mahalakshmi who has been described here? So Prathama Madhyama Uttama Charita Devata Traya Samashti Rupa Sakala Devi Mahatmya Devata Vivakshita. So that Mahalakshmi is the primeval Devi, so who has been revealed secretly in also Sakala Devi Mahatmya Devata. So in all the verses of the whole of Devi Mahatmya, of the whole of this text known as Devi Mahatmyam, and she is of the form of all the 3 Devis, Durga, Lakshmi and Saraswati. This Mahalakshmi represents all 3 of them. And it is from her these forms have manifested. And then he quotes from Pradhanika Rahasyam, Sarvaswadya Mahalakshmi Triguna Parameshwari iti Rahasyadhyayeshu Pradhanika Rahasye Tasyam Mahalakshmi Padaprayogat Namo Devyadihi Brahmadibhih Kritam Stotram Tasyaha Stotram iti Tamuddishya Tapashcharadbhyam Srutha Samadhibhyam Tadeva Suktam Japtam iti Yujyate. So in this shloka, Sarvasyadya Mahalakshmi Triguna Parameshwari, in this particular verse of the Pradhanika Rahasyam, in this chapter, so Mahalakshmi, the word Mahalakshmi has been used here to refer to her. So who's that Devata who has been referred to as Mahalakshmi in this verse of the Pradhanika Rahasyam? And Namo Devyadihi Brahmadibhih Kritam Stotram. So that stotram which was made by the Devatas headed by Brahma, and that stotram which was chanted and repeated by the Kshatriya and Vaishya named Suratha and Samadhi. So Namo Devyai Mahadevyai Shivayai Satatam Namaha. So that stotram. So it was chanted. And who is the Devata who is the object of this stotram? Namo Devyadi Stuti. So he says, Atra Sakala Devi Mahatmya Pratipadya Mahalakshmi hi Shiva Shakti hi Ambika eva. So that's the deity who has been revealed in the entire text of Devi Mahatmyam as Mahalakshmi is the potency of Lord Shiva. She is none other than Ambika, Devi Gauri, Devi Bhavani. So it is none other than her. So and then he says, he quotes from the Shiva Mahapuranam's Vayaviya Samhita, Sadashivankamarudha Shakti Richa Hvaya Shiva Mahalakshmi Ritikhyata Devi Sarvagunanvita. So that Devi is seated on the lap of Parameshwara, And she is the potent, the Ichha Shakti of Parameshwara, the auspicious Ichha Shakti. And she is known as Mahalakshmi. And she is associated with all transcendental qualities. And Shivapurane Tasyamapi Mahalakshmi Padaprayogat. And he says that the word Mahalakshmi here refers to the consort of Bhagavan Shiva. And it is not it's not Devi Rama who has been referred to as Mahalakshmi here in these verses. So in this way, Dikshitendra has secretly explained Shivaparamyam in his Durga Chandra Kalastuti. So in whole of Durga Chandra Kalastuti, he has neither argued for or against the Brahmabhavam of Devi. Dikshitendra has never done that. And in the same way, if we carefully go through the works of Dikshitendra, Dikshitendra has neither argued for or against Brahmabhavam of Bhagavan Ganapati. He has never argued for or against the Brahmabhavam of Subramanya in his works. Although he had accepted it, the Brahmabhavam of all the Devatas, he had neither argued for or against it in his works. So in his works, his focus was only on Hari and Hara. So he has beautifully established the Brahma. He has explained the Brahmabhavam of Bhagavan Narayana in his works. So he has explained the Brahmabhavam of Shiva in his works. So that alone was his focus. So whatever he had taken up as his focus in his life, so Dikshitendra never deviated from it. So that is the speciality of Srimad Appayya Dikshitendra. And to prove the Brahmabhavam of Devi, Vinayakar and Subramanyar, we have other acharyas in our sampradayam to do that. So this is something that is very, very important here. So this is Shivaparamya Pratipadanam in Durga Chandra Kalastuti. And then Vishnuparamya Pratipadanam in Durga Chandra Kalastuti. So once again we have evidence to prove that Dikshitendra's Pouranik expositions, so they have equal devotion towards both Hari and Hara. So shlokas 9 to 16 of Durga Chandra Kalastuti. So Dikshitendra quotes profusely from Varaha Puranam, and then he quotes from Harivamsha Puranam, Vishnu Puranam. So all of these Harivamsha, Vishnu Puranam, Srimad Bhagavatam, all of these are Vaishnava Puranams. And in all of these shlokas of Durga Chandra Kalastuti, when we go to the Sanskrit commentaries, Dikshitendra has profusely quoted from Harivamsham, profusely quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam, Varaha Puranam. And in all of those chapters from which Dikshitendra has quoted profusely, so all of them explicitly establish the paramyam of Bhagavan Narayana. And the beautiful shlokas which carry the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, Papah Pulastya Tanayah Punaruthito Mam Adyapi Hartumayamagata Ityuditam Yatsevadena Bhayamindiraya Vadhutam Tamadideva Tarunim Sharanam Gatosmi. So it is Rukmini Devi worshipped Devi Durga only to obtain the hand of Paramatma Shri Krishna. So that is what Dikshitendra says in this shloka, the shloka Vyakhyanam. And in the shloka Vyakhyanam of this shloka, Yadhyanajam Sukhamavapyam Ananta Punyaihi Sakshattamatshita Parigraham Ashvavapu. So once again he says, and he quotes profusely from relevant portions of Srimad Bhagavatam's 10th canto. And here the gopis of Vrindavana, so they worshipped Devi only to attain Paramatma Shri Krishna. So in this way, these shlokas of Dikshitendra's Durga Chandra Kalastuti, so they explain the paramyam of Lord Vishnu. So this is something that is very, very important for us to note here. So Harihara Bhedam is something we can see in Durga Chandra Kalastuti if we study his Sanskrit commentary on it very carefully. And then further evidence from Dikshitendra's Pauranic expositions to prove that he had equal devotion to both Hari and Hara. So one example is, explanation of Lord Shiva as the object of Antaraditya Vidya in Vedanta. So this is, Dikshitendra has done this in Aditya Stotra Ratnam in Shloka 10. So in the same way, explanation of Lord Narayana as the object of Antaraditya Vidya of Vedanta. So he has done it in Varadarajastavam. So the Pauranika, there's a famous Purana shloka we say in Sandhya Vandanam, Namas Savitre Jagadeka Chakshushe Jagat Prasuti Sthitinasha Hetave Trahimayaya Trigunaatmadharine Virinchi Narayana Shankaratmane Jheya Sada Savitramandala Madhyavarti Narayana Sarasijasana Sanivishtaha. So in this shloka, it says that it is Bhagavan Narayana who is situated as the Antaryami within the Surya Mandalam. And Dhyeya Sada Savitramandala Madhyavarti Narayana Sarasijasana Sannivishtaha Keyuravan Makarakundallavan Kiriti Hari Hiranmayava Prithritashankha Chakraha. So this Purusha who is situated at the Antaryami Purusha within Surya Mandalam. So the whole of his body is as effulgent as Swarnam, as gold. All the ornaments which he wears are gold. So right from head to toe, so he's completely effulgent. So there is a specific mantra in Chandogya Upanishad. So the secret of Antaraditya Vidya, Dikshitendra has beautifully explained in Varadarajastavam. And even the Antaraditya Vidya of Vedanta. So to prove that Parameshvara is the Vishayam of Antaraditya Vidya, we have verses to support that from Suta Samhita of Skanda Puranam, from Shiva Mahapuranam, we have verses to support it. So Dikshitendra has beautifully explained that in his stotras. And then glorification of Lord Shiva in connection with Ganga and glorification of Lord Vishnu in connection with Ganga. So this is something Dikshitendra has done. So in Brahmatarkastavam, there are three beautiful shlokas. So during Dikshitendra Jayanti, so Sanidhanam has ordered all of us to chant his Dikshitendra's Brahmatarkastava, Atmarpana Stuti and Harihara Bheda Stuti. So it is with very great significance that Acharya has asked us to do Parayanam of these three stotras on the time of Dikshitendra Jayanti. So in Brahmatarkastavam, these three shlokas go on as follows. Gangadhrita na bhavata shivapavaniti nasvadito madhura ityapi kalakutah samrakshanaya jagatam karunatirekat karmadvayam kalitametad ananyasadhyam. Hey Shiva, Ganga was born by you on your head not because she is going to purify your existence. The Pavanatvam which Ganga has got, so the Ganga's ability to purify everything that comes into contact with her, so it is purely because of her association with your head. And then so Ganga Pina, so he says that very beautifully in these three shlokas. So Ganga Pinaiva Bhavata Karicharmadharin Murjhanadhrita Madhuriposh Charanaksharanti. So he quotes from innumerable Purana Vakyams under these shlokas from Vamana Puranam, from Kurma Puranam, from Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Sanskrit commentaries on these three shlokas are very enormous. And he says that there are two different Gangas. He quotes from all the Puranams to prove that there are three Gangas. One Ganga is Tripathaga Ganga, and the other one is Vishnupadi Ganga. And it was this Tripathaga Ganga who was born by Parameshvara on his head. And he did not take Vishnupadi Ganga on his head. And Dikshitendra explains this very beautifully in his Brahmatarkastava and these three shlokas of Brahmatarkastava. So in the same way, he also explains the glory of Bhagavan Narayana in connection with Ganga. So there is one particular shloka in Varadarajastavam. So when he starts doing the Padadikeshanta Dhyanam in his Varadarajastavam, so he says that, so he explains the greatness of Narayana in connection with Ganga. And in the opening verse of Shastra Siddhanta Lesha Sangrahami, he says, Adhigata bhida purva charyamupetya sahasradha saritiva mahibhedan samprapya shauripadodgata. The word shauripadodgata sarita is very, very important. So he in this shloka, say Shastra Siddhanta Lesha Sangraham is a Vedantic work of Dikshitendra. So in this text, he compares Shri Adi Shankara Bhagavad Pada's Brahma Sutra Bhashyam with Devi Ganga. So how does Dikshitendra describe Ganga here? Shauripadodgata Sarita. So that river which emanated from the foot of Bhagavan Shauri. So that is how, so when we go through all of these works of Dikshitendra, we will understand that he had very great devotion towards Bhagavan Narayana also. So this is about the greatness of Dikshitendra's personality as a Pouranika. So every single follower of Sri Adi Shankara Bhagavad Pada should know about Dikshitendra. So we should know who he was actually and serve the legacy of all of our Purvacharyas. With this, I conclude this Bhashanam, and in tomorrow's Bhashanam, we shall cover some more topics related to Dikshitendra's exposition of the Puranas. Hara Namah Parvati Pataye, Hara Hara Mahadeva.